back on 88.7 KWDM The Point. I'm Mia Nelson alongside Johnny Reynolds and Cole Sunderman for another rendition of Fourth Quarter Friday. It's April 10th, which means we have finally concluded the college basketball season. Michigan toppling UConn in that game. We had a huge discussion about that. Huge discussion about that on Monday. But Johnny, want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was a fairly good game. I would like to say I am usually wrong about a lot of my predictions. Ian definitely can confirm that I am not the best predictor, and sometimes I get a little bit too excited about some of these games. But I was very happy with my pick for this game. I did have Michigan beating UConn 79-73. Keep in mind that score was 69-63 final. So I am very proud of that prediction. Michigan, they competed very well. They played very smart. UConn kind of led a little bit of that first half, but Michigan kind of just pulled through with 10 minutes to go, and it was all Wolverines. Ian, that UConn prediction is wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I was happy with the pick for most of the game, because I knew it was going to be close. I knew it wasn't going to be like this blowout, and it was really close through majority. And I would like to say I was spot on with my halftime prediction. I said that it was going to be about a 4-point lead, and that's what it was. Michigan had that lead going into halftime. But it was just one of those things that Michigan's strength, speed, and just tallness really got the better end of that end of the game, which we mentioned would happen if it came down to the fact Michigan just had, you could say, the more talent to close out a game, and that's what really allowed them to close it out and win it by a 6-point margin.
Yeah, and it did feel a little weird how UConn was able to really control this game, especially in the first half. UConn was really playing their game. They were only down 4 going into halftime, and it was really an impressive effort from UConn. Obviously, you lose the game, you don't like moral victories, but it's really admirable how UConn was really able to dictate the pace of this game and how they wanted to play, because if it was up to Michigan, this game would have been in the 90s, because this Michigan offense had been completely humming going into this game, and holding this just high-powered offense of Michigan to 69 points. That's really impressive. They weren't able to, hit the shots they needed to down the stretch, but they were right there, and that was really impressive. I know in the predictions that we had, I thought Michigan would handle this game. I had it 91-80, so I thought that Michigan would control the pace of this game a little more. They would score more points, but I was dead wrong on that. UConn was really able to handle this game, and that was really impressive, even though they weren't able to get the win.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to say you mentioned the high scoring affair that we all kind of lean towards that way. I mean, I was more on the lower end to mid, around that middle range. But yeah, it was a great job from UConn. Dan Hurley I really thought he coached as well as he really could have. And the expectation was to keep it as close as possibly you can in that late stages of the game. Although Michigan was able to hit some really big shots, and you can just show by that size and how competitive and tough this Michigan team has been all year. And yeah, they are 2026 national champions.
Yeah, and you have to applaud UConn, because they got down 8 points with about 5 minutes left in this game, and a lot of people thought that, including myself, in that moment, I thought Michigan was going to kind of run away with this game and really make it like a 12, 15 point, just kind of cruise to a win. But no, UConn was really able to make this a game. It wasn't really in doubt that much. Michigan was still very much in the driver's seat, but UConn was able to give them a little bit of a push. They were able to rally a little bit. So I think that this game did surprise a lot of people in how UConn was really able to hang in this game and outplayed Michigan. Really, they really did outplay Michigan at times in this game.
Yeah, so Michigan wins the national championship. And I do find it a little funny, though, how consistent UConn had been with their scores, keeping it in that 60 range. You mentioned it, Cole, that Michigan really did want to up that tempo up a little bit, but UConn's one of the best defensive teams in the country, and they proved that in this tournament, just keeping a lot of their games. I mean, the game against Michigan State in the Elite Eight was 67-63, just a 2-point difference from this championship game. But props to this Michigan team who have put up a banner inside their arena for the first time since 1989 was the last time Michigan won a national championship. So props to Michigan. But moving on, we got a bunch of high school sports as we transition away from basketball. It means the emergence of spring sports, especially here at Valley, and there's a lot to talk about. But first, we'll start it off with boys soccer. We mentioned that they had a big matchup against Ankeny a couple days ago, and they win it in very similar fashion to the girls, who both won 2-0 against the Ankeny Hawks.
Yeah, very solid win for the Tigers. And again, like I was talking about from the Cedar Falls game to open up the year, lots of young talent shown in that game. And I don't think there's any sign of stoppage of Valley soccer dominance for years to come. I mean, it's only getting better from last year. I mean, the talent that the boys had last year, especially on that class of 2025 side, was amazing. But now you have these younger guys who are stepping up and filling in those roles, and you still have a very strong senior class. And it was absolutely displayed in that Ankeny game. 2-0 on their home turf. Valley controlled that possession 75% of the game, and there were many shots on target. Ankeny really didn't have much control of the game at all. It was really all Valley.
Yeah, and looking at the CIML, it is a bloodbath, really, at the bottom half, and then the top is kind of a little bit. But it's looking like these college sports, big conferences where everybody is talented at the top. And you're looking at teams like Valley, Ankeny Centennial, and Johnston, who all are up in that top half, undefeated, haven't played many conference opponents just yet. But even if you look below, there are some scary teams. You look at a team like Urbandale, who we mentioned took a surprise loss to Southeast Polk 0-1, and then they respond playing Dowling and beating them 5-0 on Dowling's turf, which is a very crazy thing to happen and one that surprised a lot of people. Now, Valley has to play Dowling tonight at Dowling. They're looking, the Maroons are looking for some vengeance against their crosstown rival, and Valley trying just to keep themselves up in that championship contender. I'm not saying Dowling isn't, but the fact it would be a much nice start to start off with two quality CIML wins against Ankeny and against Dowling to start off the year, and also having to play at Cedar Falls. This is a tough schedule for Valley. I mean, they've started the year 3 straight road games, and they're going to have some more road games to play. They have to play Cedar Rapids Kennedy in Cedar Rapids. Then you have to finally you get a home game next Thursday against Southeast Polk.
And they're no slouch either.
They're no slouch either. They did take a surprise loss earlier this week, but this CIML is just looking so good. And it's not talked about enough, but I think the addition of bringing Urbandale back into that Class 3A, bringing them, or 4A, and bringing them back to the CIML is a very good thing. Just for competition-wise, they've been a dominant team winning the state championship last year, and now to have that level of competition again, it's a great thing to see, and I'm really excited for how this is going to play out later into the year going into May.
Yeah, and when you talk about Urbandale, I remember on Monday, I believe it was, that we talked about just Urbandale making that jump, and this Dowling game was really where they proved that they really do belong, and they are one of the top teams, because Dowling, we we also talked about it on Monday. That's going to be a tough game, but it's a game that Valley can win. Obviously, Dowling is 0-2, but Urbandale they really handled this game from the jump, and that really sets up a really interesting spot for Valley because Dowling is now 0-2. They just, they really got it from Urbandale, and now they should be very motivated coming into this game. They will come out with their hair on fire, and they know that this is a really big swing in their season because if they drop to 0-3, then that could really spiral into 4, 5, 6 more losses. So I think both teams really see the importance of this spot, and I think the biggest question going into this game is just really how each team will handle that because Valley really hasn't been pushed to the brink just quite yet, and Dowling has really gotten it from Urbandale. So it's really two teams that are kind of going two different directions and seeing if Dowling can right the ship against Valley.
I think another surprise for me just from the coaching side, Coach Aziz, one of the most decorated coaches in all of Iowa boys soccer. It's been the goalkeeping. Alexander Poyton, the reigning Gatorade Player of the Year in Iowa, has taken a little bit of a backseat, only playing one half out of their 4 total halves that they've had all year. To fellow senior Angel Ramirez, who has 6 saves, 3 in each of their games. Alex has 3 in his one playing time, one playing section, and I think it's a little bit of surprise and it's a wondering. Both have played very well. No goals have been scored on the Tigers yet this year, but as we get farther down the line, is this just like testing of Ramirez to see is he going to be their longtime goalie, or is it allowing Poyton just to have some breather before the season really starts to ramp up? So we'll see. We don't have a starting lineup for the Dowling match just yet, so that will be something to look at is does he play in this, I would say, very momentum packed Dowling game, because you mentioned just how it rides on the remainder of the season. Does Poyton their star goalkeeper play, or do they keep and trust in Ramirez, who played all of the Ankeny game, which was really surprised me is in their first CIML game, it wasn't their leader Poyton, it was Ramirez. So just a thing to look at.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of confusion, throughout, obviously, with the spectators thinking, oh, Poyton, yeah, Gatorade Player of the Year. But keep in mind, he has not played. This is his first year not playing club soccer, and typically most of these varsity level guys will play club soccer year round, get ready, have a well, coached club team, and really be competitive throughout the summer, fall, and even some winter games. Alex, he shifted away from that and is only focused on high school sports, and when you have a guy like Ramirez, who has about 5 inches on Poyton, could be a big factor. And I think maybe the coaching staff sees that Ramirez is a little bit more ready and a little bit more ready to go. They're both seniors, giving him both an opportunity. But we'll still see if Poyton is the guy, in the later stretches of the season. But they have to be ready to go because they have to play a really good Dowling side tonight. Obviously, they had a big loss against Urbandale, but they have to go and play at Cedar Falls tomorrow against Kennedy. So they have back-to-back games, and these are not going to be easy ones to win.
Yeah, it does also feel like a kind of a testament to just to the depth of that goalkeeping position for the Tigers, because if you have another guy stepping in above your Gatorade Player of the Year, that just really shows how talented he is. And for a game like or a stretch like these back-to-back games, maybe you think about you put in one of those guys in one of the games and then you put another guy in the other of the games. So it really does give the team a lot of versatility for who is playing better in a certain time, or just who the coaches feel better with in a certain time frame. So it really gives the team a lot of options, and if they want to go back to Poitin, they can, but they can also stick with Hernandez. So it just gives them a lot of options in this situation.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to trust in Coach Aziz. He, like I mentioned, one of the most decorated. He knows soccer probably more than anybody in the state. I would say he has been a rec coach, a club coach, a varsity coach for years now. And so if he sees Ramirez as the better fit, I completely trust in him. And I mean, it's worked so far. You can almost play with the mantra, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, because no goals have been let up on the year. We'll see if that sticks through this Dowling game. But that was one of the praised factors from last year, is how many goals were not let in, how many goals were saved by Valley goalkeepers last year, and their win margins was one of the highest in the state, in the country, really. So it'll be a very cool thing to look at, especially down the line. But Valley, they play Dowling tonight. The girls are playing they're playing Cedar Falls at Ankeny Centennial, a very weird sort of scheduling thing, but it's the Ankeny Centennial's like quad invite, what you would see like at a cross country, a quad type matchup where they play Cedar Falls at Ankeny Centennial, and they're like friendly. So soccer is in a full swing thing. I mentioned the girls, they won at home against Ankeny, so they start their year 1-0. This is their second game of the year, I think tonight or tomorrow.
They'll play Cedar Falls tonight on the Centennial turf, so yeah, big game.
Yeah, and so a lot of big things happening. Looking around CML boys for tonight, Ankeny taking on Indianola, Southeast Polk taking on Davenport North, Ankeny Centennial, Lewis Central, and Waukee taking on Des Moines East. And then Urbandale also plays today, I believe not. I take that back. They do not play today. But, yeah, some big games. Mainly the big one is Valley versus Dowling in the crosstown rivalry in soccer.
Yeah, not going to be an easy one. I'm a bit worried for some of the, this team, and seeing that 5-0 score might be a little bit discouraged and thinking this is an easy game to win. But especially on a Friday night rivalry game at, the crosstowns, it's their home turf. They're not going to want to give up anything, and these guys have to be ready. I mean, I don't think almost any of these guys, obviously besides Poitin, which he probably won't be starting tonight, really was in that starting 11. We obviously see the addition of Emmett now this year for the Tigers, making a big appearance, as well as Dennis Milacevic, the senior. So those guys are going to step up huge, and there's a lot of young talent. But the team is still a good amount of senior heavy talent, but with a lot of freshmen and sophomores stepping up for the Tigers.
Yeah, and a familiar name from last year, Saidi, he's now a sophomore. He stepped in as a freshman and really started to take a big role on that team, and he's continuing to step up already with a goal on the year, 3 shots on goal through the first 2 games. So he's making his presence known. And, yeah, you mentioned Dennis and Emmett, 2 seniors who started to get some more minutes as the year progressed last year, really now is taking that leadership role. So this team, I think it'll be just looking at tonight, how do they respond to a Dowling team with blood in their eyes, as you could call it, trying to get a big win at home. Looking across the remainder for Valley Sports, boys tennis has a big matchup tonight. They play Ankeny starting at 3 o'clock. Ankeny coming out with some big guys. Valley taking a win at Indianola. So they're trying to start their conference play in the win column. Continuing on in girls track and field, the varsity girls have the Northwest relays in Waukee tonight. And then the big ones, soccer, both boys and girls play tonight. And I think that may be all. But then tomorrow, the Jim Duncan invite for both boys and girls track at Drake Stadium. One of the biggest relays in the state of Iowa, probably behind the state tournament and Drake relays. So a lot of big things happening in sports. Anything to mention out of the match games, relays, meets that I mentioned.
Yeah, the Jim Duncan invite, especially, it's huge for all the central teams, all the elite runners will compete in that, and they also have something out east in Iowa City. So kind of both the same weekend. This is a big time. Obviously, next Thursday is the last day to qualify for Drake. So tomorrow is
A lot of blue standards.
a lot of blue standards will be dropped tomorrow, as well as, obviously blue standard, you're automatically in that event, but top 21 guys or girls in that event will be at the Drake Relays. For the distance events, obviously it varies per event. In relays, it's about 16 teams for the 4x8, but on the distance side of things is very strong on both ends. Obviously, Quinton Nauman has already dropped a 4:03 indoors in March, which is absurd. He's dropped a 9:07 outdoors, and then Keegan Decker, the junior from Iowa City Liberty, broke 9 minutes in the 2 mile with an 8:59. So a lot of competition on the eastern side of things, but for the Jim Duncan invite, you will see guys like Kanan Dunham, who is a Tulsa commit who had many offers all around the country, including Oregon. He will take the track tomorrow and race the mile, as well as Kiefer Barnes from Indianola, who is the DePaul commit. So going to be a crazy distance carnival, as well as some amazing sprint events.
Yeah, and I mean, if you make it to Drake, you almost make it as a high schooler. It's like that big thing. Yes, if you make state, that's cool and all, but you almost see all of these runners saying they'd rather make the Drake relays than state sometimes, just because of how
difficult. It's all classes.
How difficult it is, and just the overall scheme of the Drake relays, one of the most well-known meets in all of sports history, behind some of the biggest tournaments that you have. You ask anybody around the United States, they'll know what the Drake relays is if they have any knowledge of sports, really. It's just that big of a thing. So I am very excited just to see the Valley people. You already know the college runners that have already committed, like Micaiah LeLacheur and Morgan Carr. Micaiah LeLacheur, who's going to South Dakota, and Morgan Carr, who's going to Iowa State, have already made blue standards in some of their events. I think, is Morgan still looking to blue standard in any, or Micaiah?
I believe for the open events, but there's some other relays that they're both trying to get in.
Is there any other Valley that are looking for blue standards?
Yes, especially on the distance side. Junior Thomas Lindback, he is actually ranked fairly close in the mile. He is 31st with a 4:25. Right now, a 4:23 would get you top 21. So obviously, you can just see that huge, intense spots. It's a huge gap. So many guys are running 4:24 and 4:25 right now. If he's able to run, I would say 4:21, 4:22 tomorrow, he'll have a really good shot at beating that top 21 running at Drake Relays. And he'll also be running the 3,200. So that is a distance double for Thomas Lindback and Valley. He's ranked 27th at 9:40 right now. To be in that top 21, he probably needs to run about anywhere from 9:25 to 9:27 to be sort of safe for that Drake spot.
Yeah, conditions are looking a little spotty for tomorrow. It is an outdoor event. They'll run in the rain if they must, but the wind could potentially be a factor for some events. It could be a helpful factor or a hindrance depending on where you're lined up. It's going to be about a 5 to 13 mile per hour wind with gust up to 27 miles per hour, reaching almost 30 later into the night, but around that noonish time, they'll barely reach up to that 25 for gust, leveling out to about 13 miles per hour for just regular wind. So pretty helpful if you're in that backstretch with the wind to your back, but running into that, especially for those milers, will be a factor because it is never easy to run with the wind in your face. And the other factor, the rain is supposed to come at that 10 to 2 spot. 10 through 2, about a 50% chance, 40% chance of rain. Unfortunate, but these guys have been running in rain their whole career. It'll be still a fun day of running, which is a crazy thing to say as a non-runner. But I know these guys have been marking the Jim Duncan on their calendar since the season started. But yeah, a bunch of big sporting events happening in Valley. Check out the Jim Duncan. Check out the soccer games. Pull up to Ankeny for the boys tennis meet later today. But any other big news to end out the week? The Masters is also on right now. Got to shout that out. Some surprises from that top and some usuals. I think right now the surprise is the group leader is a name that isn't heard as much. He's a young guy at 29 years old. Sammy Burns. I think it's Sammy. Sam Burns.
Just Sam, I think.
Sam Burns. Yeah, Sam Burns, the 29-year-old from Louisiana. He played at LSU. He's won the PGA Tour 5 times already, but hasn't won that notorious green jacket. He's right now tied with Rory McIlroy. I believe, is Roy not the reigning champ?
Yeah.
Yeah,
he
the
is.
reigning
Roy
champ.
is.
But we've seen in the years past, this is only round 2. There's still plenty of time to go, and we've seen leaders drop all the way from the first to barely making the cut. So, a lot of big sporting in Augusta is starting to heat up because right now the leader's sitting at -5, but we've seen guys in the top 10 barely being at that even. Right now, a bunch of people are tied for that 17th placement, sitting at even.
Yeah, and in this, the projected cut line is 4 over. So those guys that are sitting at even, there's a lot of guys that are recognizable in that area right around par. They're fairly safe right now, but with Augusta, you really never know, and a guy could have a huge number on a round, and that's what people just love about this tournament, is that really anyone can win it, and it really gets all the best guys together. So
Yeah.
A guy like Sam Burns, that not a lot of people that don't really follow golf, they wouldn't really know him really at all. So if he can, it's obviously just the start of the second day, but if he can get hot and have a big round, then maybe he could pull something off. So that's what's so exciting going into this weekend, is that you really have no idea until that final day.
And some of the surprises that you mentioned, that cut line at the 4 over, Bryson DeChambeau currently sits at that +5. John Rahm sits also at that top 5. Bubba Watson at the +6. And then Kiefer, who's been a solid golfer, sits at +7, plus many more. There's currently 91 golfers in the mix. That will get cut down to a close around 50. That's where the cut line stands right now. But we'll keep you updated on the Masters, and we'll keep you updated on all the Valley Athletics and CIML Athletics around the state of Iowa. Anything else before we close out this Fourth Quarter Friday?
I think we're good.
Well, then, thank you all for listening to another episode of Fourth Quarter Friday. I'm Ian Nelson, alongside Johnny Reynolds and Cole Sunderman, saying thank you all for listening and have a great rest of your weekend.